When you're ready to move into 3D and start manipulating the faces and edges you've drawn, you'll be using this modification toolbar located here. Now, to save time, I've already used the rectangle tool and drawn a 48 by 48 inch square here on the ground. The first tool we're going to use here is push-pull. I'll left click on it, and then by left clicking anywhere on the face here, I can now move the mouse and push or pull this face into a 3D object. Entering a number in the measurement toolbar will set a distance. So by typing 50 and then pressing enter, I've now created a box that's 50 inches tall. Any of these new edges, or faces rather, can be pushed or pulled on too. If I pull this out here, I can type in a number. We'll put in 2 for 2 inches. Now this face has been moved out 2 inches from its original position. Now the last push-pull distance you use will be remembered by SketchUp, and you can repeat it by double-clicking. So if I double-click on this face has now been moved out 2 inches from its original position. I'm going to grab the line tool and cut across this face. I'll start at the midpoint here. I'll left-click and then snap somewhere on the edge here. If I move across, I'll keep that inference to that point. I'll left click on this side and then move up and left click back at the midpoint to finish that line segment. By cutting across this face, I've actually created 3 new faces that I can now push or pull on. If I left click on this face, I can now push it in partially, or by moving it all the way to the end here and left clicking, I can shave the entire section off. Now, since that last distance will be remembered again, if I double click on this portion, that side will be shaved off as well. Just like the 2D objects in the previous video, we have inference points all along this new 3D object. I can snap to them or simply just use them as reference. From here I'm going to reference off that back corner, and I've got the rectangle tool selected, so if I left click I'll begin drawing a rectangle. Now you'll notice I'm not getting a reference off this front corner. If I want, I can encourage that inference by hovering over that point for just a few seconds. Now as I pull out, you'll see I've got a lock on both the front and back corners of that object. Now if you look at the measurement toolbar, the first dimension there has a little squiggle or a tilde in front of it. That's telling us that this dimension is not exact. It's actually rounded off. The second number, 50, is actually set from those reference points that we're inferring off the first object that we drew. If I want to make a 50 by 50 inch square, I only need to re-enter the number that needs to be changed. So if I type in 50, comma, then enter, that square is now 50 by 50 inches. SketchUp will remember that second dimension. Since we didn't change it, it's going to remain the same. Now those inference points can also be used to set our distance with the push-pull. If I left click here, I can set it in reference to the midpoint or any one of these endpoints. The next tool we're going to talk about is the Move Copy tool located here. This tool is used in conjunction with the Select tool located here. You can left click on the toolbar or press the space key as a shortcut. To select an edge, you'll put your cursor on top of that edge and click with your left mouse button. If you want to select multiple edges, holding down on your shift key will bring up this little addition and subtraction symbol in your next to your icon. That tells us we can click on additional edges and add them to our original selection. Clicking on any one of those edges again will subtract it from our original selection. To unselect everything, I'll let go of the shift key and then click anywhere outside of my selection. If I want to select a single face, I can left click on it. If I want to select the face and all of its edges, I'll double click. triple clicking 3 times will select the face, the edge, and all the other geometry that are connected to the face and edges. If you look underneath, you'll see everything is selected. I'll click out here to unselect everything and show you another way to select multiple objects. You can do it by drawing a box. If I left click out here and drag to the right, I'll draw a box around this object, and when I let go of the mouse button, you'll notice all those objects have now been selected. Now the size and direction that you draw this box in will give you different results. So if I draw a box from left to right just on the upper portion here, when I let go, you'll notice that the only thing that was selected were the edges and faces that were completely included inside that box. If I draw a box from right to left, you'll notice I get a dash box, and when I let go, you'll notice that I've selected the face and edges that were inside that box, as well as the faces and edges that that box crossed. If you look at the bottom of the box, you'll notice that this face and these edges were not selected. That's because the box that we drew didn't cross any of those edges or that face at the bottom. Now that we know how to use the select tool, I'm going to create a new line here. I'll snap from midpoint to midpoint. I'll select that single edge with the select tool and then move into move operation by pressing the M key. That's the shortcut for the move tool. I'll click anywhere on this line, and then as I move out, you'll see that I can adjust this shape by moving in any direction. Now I can lock on to a specific axis by using the arrow keys. If I click the right arrow key, I'll actually toggle or lock on to that green axis, the red axis. No matter where I move this cursor, the movement is locked to that red axis. Clicking the left arrow key will lock the green axis, and hitting either the up or down arrow key will actually lock into the blue direction. And if I move over this point, I can use it as a reference to set the height. Now to move an entire object, I'll have to select the entire object I want to move. So I'll just triple click on this to select everything, and then grab the move tool, or I could press M as a keyboard shortcut. I'll grab the object from this point here, and as I move out, you'll see I can move in any direction. I can use those inference points to connect the object to any of the other points in my drawing, or I can move it out a specific distance in any direction. So if I move it here on the red axis and type 40, I've now moved that object 40 inches to the right. The move tool can also be toggled into copy mode by pressing the control key on a PC or the option key on a Mac. You'll notice when I did that, I now have an addition symbol next to my move icon. This tells me I'm in the copy mode. Now if I grab this point, I'm not moving the original, but I'm actually moving a copy. I can move this out a specific distance as well. We'll say we'll move it out 200 inches. Oops, that was only 20, so I can type 200, and now I'll get 200. I can repeat this operation by typing in 2x. So now I've moved a second copy out 200 inches. If I type 3x, now I've moved a third copy out. Each one of these is spaced 200 inches apart. Now this is perfect if you're putting together a stud wall. You could make a 2x4 and evenly space it 16 inches or any on-center spacing that you choose. Now another way you can make an array is to type /3. Now what's happened is I've actually divided that 200 inches by 3. I have evenly spaced objects within that 200 inches that I originally set. Now this is perfect for evenly spacing bookshelves on a bookcase, or setting up stiles on a wainscoting project for evenly spaced panels in a room. I'm going to move over here now to a simple 3/4 inch slab that I made. We'll use this to make a quick and simple door. For that, we'll use the offset tool. I'll left click to select it, and by moving over the face here, you'll see I get a red square showing me on edge. If I left click and move my mouse, I can now create another rectangle inside that rectangle or outside that rectangle, offset by the distance that I input into that measurement toolbar. I'm going to type in 2.5 for 2.5 inches. Even though we're using fractional measurements, SketchUp will still accept decimal inputs, and sometimes it's actually easier to type in 2.5 than 2 space 1/2. From here, I'm going to push my center rectangle that I've just created down. I'm going to push it down 1/4 inch. So now I've got a recessed flat panel that I could use as a door. I can go further by using offset again. I'll offset that new rectangle that I created. This time we'll offset it, say 1.5 or 1.5 inches. I'll select that new rectangle, and by using the move tool I can now move that rectangle around. If I lock into the blue direction by pressing the up arrow key, I can now pull that rectangle up, and if I move over the edge of the door here, I can set its height by left clicking. So now I've quickly created a simple raised panel. I can also move this object with the rotate tool. First I'll select the entire object and grab the rotate tool. The first thing we need to do when we're using the rotate tool is set the axis that we want to rotate this around. I'm going to snap onto this point here and press and hold down on the left mouse key. From here I can set my axis, and I can make this door rotate around any axis I want. I'm going to flip this door up into a vertical position, so I want to have it rotate around the red axis. You can think of this axis as the pin on the hinge that this door would rotate around. So once I have my red axis set, I'll let go of the left mouse button, and I'll come back here and I'll grab this bottom corner of the door. From here I can now rotate this door into position. I can rotate it at any angle and enter that angle into the measurement toolbar at the bottom, or I can wait until it snaps onto 90 degrees. See if we can get it here. There we go. It's now snapped to 90 degrees. I can also select this corner and give us a blue axis of rotation. If I select this corner here, I can now make the door operate like it would in real life. I can leave it open or close it in my drawing to show how the cabinet I'm building is going to work. Now I've saved the best for last. We're going to use the Follow Me tool next. To use Follow Me, you need two things. You need a face and a path for the face to follow. I'm going to start just with a simple circle here. This will be our face, and I'll use the line tool to create a path. I'm going to move up in the blue direction first. Now, unlike push-pull, I can use Follow Me to move around corners. I'll straighten this corner out a little bit with the arc tool, make kind of a gradual transition. Let's see if we can't There we go. Now, since I closed a loop of edges, I've got a face. I'll erase those edges, and that'll delete the face as well. Now we're ready to use Follow Me. I'll click on the Follow Me tool, and then left click on the face. Now as I trace up my path, you'll see that that face now follows behind and is extruded around that path. So you might think this is pretty neat, but unless you're a plumber, this pipe that we just created probably isn't exciting you that much. Well, let's say the face we used looked something like this instead of a circle. I'm going to move out here and we'll make a path for Follow Me. Instead of drawing all those lines individually, this time I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and to give it a little more interest, I'm going to put an arc on the front. I'll swing out here. Now I'll use the eraser and erase out the lines that I don't need. The path can be pre-selected when you're using Follow Me, and sometimes it seems to work a little better. So to pre-select this entire path, I'm going to draw that right to left crossing box across my path, and you'll see it'll select the entire thing. I'll grab Follow Me and left click on my face, and this is where the magic happens. As we orbit around this new object, you'll see that that face has completely followed the path that we drew out for it. What we're left with is a fairly complex crown detail. You can see this was very easy to do and quick. As a matter of fact, it's probably quicker than even coping one joint.